Hello and welcome to the Diary of a Stargazer. We have the Flower Moon 2026, so thank you for watching. The Flower Moon typically rises the full moon on the 1st of May. This was the May 2026 one. And the name does what it says on the tin. Flower moon, it's typically when flowers start to bloom, and it's probably about the midpoint of spring as we drift towards the summer. And it's stunningly yellow. I wouldn't say it's quite red, but it's sort of a browny yellow. You'll find with each full moon, 12 full moons typically in a calendar year. Moon and month words, they all kind of are related. So a month is a moon cycle. And then another interesting fact this month is at the end of the month there's going to be a blue moon. Now a blue moon does not mean that the moon goes blue. That would be quite a challenge even for the gazer. However, it just means it's the 13th moon. So the way the calendars work is every so often days accrue and you'll end up with an extra moon in a calendar month. So May in 2026 has got the flower moon on the 1st of May, and on the 31st of May is the blue moon. But again, blue does not mean colour, it's just a name. And you'll find each calendar month, like for example January is called the wolf moon, and each month will be a different name. And that's typically because the Native Americans used to call it the time when the wolves were hungry, and hence the wolf moon. Another example would be December, the cold moon, and so on. And what we'll do with other videos, we'll explain the details behind the moon. And there's a lot of history and there's a lot of mythology, and some of it's quite surprising. But the moon is almost like our clockwork in the sky. And the ancients would have followed the moon without watches, without calendar clocks like we follow, because it would indicate the end of the month. So they knew when the end of the month was, they knew when spring was coming, etc. Another good example is the June moon, which is the strawberry moon. So that would symbol fruit and strawberries starting to ripen, and that would allow our ancestors to know when to pick the strawberries, etc, etc. And that, when you look at the different types of moon, is quite clever how our ancestors used the sky, the moon, the stars to know when to harvest and so on. Another example of that would be the Pleiades. The Pleiades is an amazing star cluster. If you look east in the autumn, you'll see the Pleiades, and so our ancients used to use the Pleiades to tell them when to take harvest, and when to harvest the grains and the crops that they would grow to survive back in those days. And we're talking about Bronze Age people, we're talking about thousands of years ago, and it's all there in the history books. But the more you look at the sky, the more you realise how clever these people were. But they didn't have TVs, they didn't have smartphones, they had the sky. The sky was their form of entertainment in a way, but it also was a navigation tool. Modern day society creates a lot of pollution. A lot of the stars we see now are blurred by that pollution. They had perfectly clear skies, they could see for much more than we can see now. So where we need all sorts of fancy telescopes and equipment and night vision and all sorts of crazy tools that allow you to visualize and study the heavens, they didn't need that as much because the sky was a lot clearer. They could see so much more. And if a modern day stargazer was looking back at the sky 4,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago or even 500 years ago, you could see a lot more. It would be stunning. But anyway, so what we're trying to share with this channel is how much the sky, how much the moon, the sun and all these things played a role in our development as a civilized society. But we kind of have lost that connection to the clockwork sky. And what we'll try and do with the Diary of the Stargazer is try and bring back some of this clear intelligence that we miss. And it's something that we're finding quite interesting. The more we look, the more we're quite astonished by the level of sophistication some of our ancestors had with the stars and how they used them for day-to-day living. Hence the Egyptians and so on is another example of the Aztecs and Mayans and so on. But anyway, that's for another chat. But anyway, we've enjoyed sharing this flower moon with you. We're trying to pass, call it education, we're just sharing the interesting stuff that we find. And what we like about this particular moon today was the sort of golden yellow effect of the flower moon. And yeah, it almost looks like the centre of a flower to a degree. But anyway, enough said. Thank you for watching the Diary of a Stargazer. Hi there, Gazer Commentary again here. Just wanted to add that, just say this particular moon video is motion, and we've slowed the moon down to try and show its splendour and its magnificence. And it's worked quite well. So it's a super slow flower moon, but basically it's just slow motion because the moon moves. But what we do, we try and let the moon drift. And this is drifting super slow, which has allowed us to sort of hold it more in place. You won't find us typically sharing an image. Most of our work, all of our work, is motion based. This is not one image, this is thousands of frames. And typically it's probably 60 frames per second, this one, but it's not an image is what we're trying to say. Not allowed on the Diary of the Stargazer. We only share videos. Images are boring because everyone else does that. We share motion. Space is moving. Space does not stand still. And we need to encourage more people to focus on the motion of space. Space is only holding together because it's moving. If we freeze it, we're not exactly learning anything. So try it. Stop taking pictures of the moon and start taking videos. And you might be surprised by what you find. If you want some tips, watch the Diary of the Stargazer. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.